What's up, YouTube people? It's your boy Patty McNinja, and this past Thursday we got the much anticipated 2023 Game Awards, and I look forward to the Game Awards every year. I kind of love how it's become like this mini E3 where yes, they have all the awards that they give out, but they also announce a lot of games, they show a lot of trailers, and so I'm always looking forward to the ceremony, but I was especially looking forward to this year because, as I've been saying this entire year, it's been a great year for video games, and so there was a lot of really competitive categories, and I thought the show was a lot of fun. So I want to talk about my favorite moments from this year's Game Awards, and without further ado, let's rock. So I will be doing this video as a top 5 because the internet loves when you rank things, but I don't know how you quantify what's 4 and what's 5. So these are just my 5 favorite moments from the Game Awards. And I know I just said 5, but I really mean 6 because I am going to start this video off with an honorable mention. I really wanted to get this into my top 5, but there's just so much I wanted to talk about from the ceremony that I just couldn't fit it in the top 5. And that is Cocoon winning for Best Indie Debut. And Cocoon is a game that I reviewed on this channel earlier this year, and in that review I did mention that puzzle platformers are by far my favorite genre. I grew up on them. I try to play pretty much every puzzle platformer that gets released, and Cocoon was the very best puzzle platformer in 2023. I was really excited that they were nominated for both categories, and I was super psyched that they won this one category. Unfortunately, they didn't win both categories, and I was bummed at first when that happened, but it makes sense that they would split the indie categories because obviously, by definition, if you're an indie game, you don't have as much marketing, you don't have that AAA studio behind you. So if more people play Cocoon and play Sea of Stars, which I believe, if I remember correctly, is the game that won the other indie category that Cocoon was also nominated for. If more people play those two indie games because they won these two different categories, then that's great. I love that. But I was a huge fan of Cocoon, and I was really glad that they won. Speaking of puzzle platformers, my number 5 favorite moment from the Game Awards is Moon Studios, the studio behind the Ori and the Blind Forest games, some of the best modern puzzle platformers out there. They revealed their new game, No Rest for the Wicked, which unfortunately is not a puzzle platformer. It is what they describe a mature precision action role-playing game. I will be honest, the trailer gives me strong Diablo vibes, which, side note, I was a little bit annoyed that the trailer on YouTube is actually age gated, so it was kind of annoying to get footage for this video, but I digress. I do have to admit that the top-down hack and slash games like Diablo aren't necessarily my favorite. There are a few that I like. I really enjoyed Hades, but I enjoyed that game more for just the style and personality that it had, more than just like the combat style. I'm typically not a fan of these top-down hack and slash games, which it feels like that's what this game is. But because I like the Ori games so much, I'm willing to give Moon Studios the benefit of the doubt. I definitely will be playing this game day one. Moving on to number 4, Arcane is teaming up with Marvel to make a brand new Blade video game that they announced at the Game Awards. And I know what you're thinking, Arcane is making another vampire game after the disaster that was Redfall. Actually, Redfall was made by Arcane Austin. The Blade game is actually being made by their French studio, which also made Deathloop, a game that I thoroughly enjoyed. And if you know me personally, outside of being a big gamer, I also grew up on Marvel Comics. Marvel Spider-Man 2 was my personal game of the year, and I was really bummed it literally won nothing. I know that's a completely different studio, but anytime Marvel teams up with a great studio to make a video game, take my money. I'm really excited for this Blade game. It also certainly doesn't hurt that the co-creative director of this new Blade game is a madman, and I say that with love. He basically came to this show in his best Blade cosplay and gave this really wacky interview where he didn't give us too much information about the actual game, but he almost kicked the camera person in the process, so there's that. Speaking of great studios, Hello Games, the studio behind No Man's Sky, also announced their brand new sandbox survival RPG, Light No Fire, which, judging by the trailer, basically looks like they took a planet from No Man's Sky and filled it completely with life, resources, and what I would describe as fantasy weird shit, which I say that in the best way possible. Unfortunately, we didn't get any release date or word on the platforms it will be available on, which is kind of a bummer, but it's also kind of the par for the course for these Game Awards announcements. They're just kind of showing off the first look at a lot of these games, but not giving us a ton of information. And I almost kind of understand it after the over-promised disaster that was No Man's Sky's launch. I don't really blame them for slow playing this game. Nobody wants a repeat of the disaster that was No Man's Sky launch. Slow play as much as you want with this new game. Under promise and over deliver. Please, Hello Games, take your time. Moving on to my second favorite moment from the 2023 Game Awards, Hideo Kojima announced his brand new video game movie hybrid called OD. And if I'm being 100% honest, when they flashed his name, I assumed that we were getting some Death Stranding 2 update, and I was completely blown away that they announced a completely different game. I think it's amazing that in a few years, we're going to get 2 different Kojima games. It's going to be awesome. Now, we don't know much about the actual game. It looks weird AF, but that's on par for Kojima games. They're always kind of weird in the best way possible. And I talked about giving Moon Studios the benefit of the doubt. That goes tenfold for Kojima. Metal Gear Solid is top 5 video game of all time for me. I love Death Stranding, and I'll basically play anything that this man puts out. And to make things even more exciting, they also announced that Jordan Peele will be teaming up with Kojima to make OD. And in my opinion, Jordan Peele has not made a bad movie yet. So the fact that he's helping him with this game is awesome. It's so cool. I will admit, though, that the love fest between the two of them on stage did feel a little bit forced. This is my reenactment of their little back and forth on stage at the Game Awards. You're so awesome. Stop it. You're awesome. And the internet absolutely lost their mind when they announced OD. And I think in most years, a new Kojima game is going to be number 1 on everybody's top 5 lists of best moments from the Game Awards. However, in 2023, we got this moment.
But fun fact, my speech was actually longer than this year's Call of Duty campaign. What?
And normally, after a burn like that, I would say that Chris Judge ended Call of Duty's career. But if we're being honest, Activision is diving into Microsoft money like Scrooge McDuck right now. And I actually thought the tag to the joke about how he's never going to work for Call of Duty because of the joke was actually a little bit funnier. And I think it's wild that he's essentially owned this show 2 years in a row. Last year, everybody wanted to talk about how his speech was so long, and now this year, everybody only wants to talk about his Call of Duty joke. It's wild to me that he's essentially owned the discussion around the Game Awards for 2 years in a row now, and for me, that meant that he had to be number 1 favorite moment of the 2023 Game Awards. But of course, those are just my top 5 favorite moments from this year's ceremony. I'd love to hear yours in the comments down below. Of course, I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash that like button, as the kids say. Consider subscribing. If you do subscribe, ding that bell. That way you're notified every time I post a video. I try to post weekly gaming related content. So if you like that type of content, which you obviously do because you made it this far in the video, definitely consider subscribing and dinging that bell. But until next video, take it easy. What's up, YouTube people? It's your boy Patty McNinja, and this is my boy Yoshi, aka Kitty Boy, and we were just talking and we agree that since you made it this far in the video, you might as well subscribe. You wouldn't want to disappoint Kitty Boy, would you?